I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel saying, show my buddy Butch Rosenbalm and my buddy Patrick McCray. We are here to talk assault on Precinct 13, but before we do, Butch Rosenbaum wants to pay some respects. Go ahead, buddy.
Thank you, Trent. Sorry. Thank you, Joel. Friend of mine over on the Disheveled at Dawn podcast, his name was Trent Douglas, passed away this week. Apparently just passed away in his sleep. I've known Trent about 15, 20 years. He's a good guy. I was on their podcast a few times. He was in my current D&D group. Just a really great guy. Always had something nice to say about somebody. Never heard him say anything bad about anyone. I think the worst thing I heard him say was, well, I don't care for them. And that was it. And whatever your beliefs and thoughts and spirituality are, just to remember his family, friends, especially his girlfriend, Lisa, and his brother from another mother, Doug Dobbs, and just everybody knew him. He was just a great guy. Here's to you, Trent. Thank you, Joel. I just wanted to throw that out real quick.
No, absolutely. For Assault on Precinct 13, this is John Carpenter's first movie. And what a movie it is.
Yeah. What about Dark Star? Does that count?
No.
Yes, it counts.
No.
I think it counts too. I'm not trying to be a nudnik, but yeah, this is his first film that I think has nothing to do with being a student movie.
Yeah.
I might even call this his first professional film, if you will.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take my glasses off. I'm keep looking at the light. But yeah, I would say this is his first professional film, though not his first film, because it's my understanding Dark Star started out as a student film when him and Dan O'Bannon was at USC. But anyway, go ahead.
This movie needs Pinback.
Here, when did you guys first see the original Assault on Precinct 13?
Patrick?
Late 90s, early aughts. I was, and it was one of two ways. I had assigned the movie to some students because they were doing a thing on John Carpenter. And it was one of those movies I just never tracked down. But I think, Butch, you probably brought it over one Thursday night or something also. And that was the first time I really saw it in full.
So that ties directly into my story. This DVD copy was in a 2-pack with it and The Fog, 2 John Carpenter films I'd seen bits and pieces of. Actually, bits and pieces of The Fog. I hadn't seen this, and I was like, oh, what the heck? It's John Carpenter. How bad could it be? Holy God, I love this film.
It's a very
and you can tell by the multiple copies I have of it. But it's really funny. I tried to watch. I thought, okay, I've seen this film enough. I don't need to rewatch it, but I'm gonna try and watch it with the commentary. It's just John Carpenter. It's very dry. And I couldn't make it through it, but he's just like really kind of, well, this is a low budget movie, and I should have done this, and I should have done this. And I'm like, John, everything you did, as far as I'm concerned, it worked out perfectly. Leave it alone.
It's a great movie. Who is that woman? Lori something? What's Lori Zimmer? Lori Zimmer. Oh, wow. I have to stop everything and say she was she is, for a completely, let us say, I won't say wooden, I'll say oaken actress. At first I thought this woman's terrible. And then I thought, no, she is unbelievably gunfighter steady. And that's a choice. And I almost feel like he used Meg Foster in They Live because she wasn't available. Wow. I mean, the movie's really good, but she commands every scene she's in. with the least amount of effort possible. I'm sorry, I just had to break in with that.
No, no, you are dead on. She, you watch some films and Jules love to say Claudia Cardinale. You look at Claudia Cardinale and you're like, man, that's an attractive woman. Julie Zimmer, you're like, okay, she's all right, she's fine. But yes, she has, in my opinion, a very old school, old world thing, appeal about her. She kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, say, Lauren Bacall.
Yeah.
How you're just like, she's not bad, but there's just something about her. She has a charisma, and you're just like, she is possibly the coolest female in any John Carpenter film, and it's not not that she has cool lines or she's kicking ass left and right. It's just her.
Yeah. She's just wonderful. The first thing that struck me about this movie, because I had forgotten most of it, because that was only 20 something years ago. I'd forgotten most of it, and the thing that struck me so powerfully is how beautifully John Carpenter handled this triple narrative. For about the first third of the movie, you've got these three storylines, and he's so smooth with it, you almost don't even realize you're watching three separate movies that will all come together, because they're all so unbelievably different. And they've got nice bits of mystery to them, and it may even be a quadruple narrative. I'm not sure, with the criminals, in their own separate thing. Wow. I was really impressed by how well he tied all of that together. It's almost like he started from the middle of the movie as a writer, and then pulled the support struts out from there to see, okay, what do we need to see about them? What do we need to, it's a really, for a 90-minute movie, it has so much going on. It has so many plots. They all work. It has so many fine performances. They all work. I is really impressed by this film.
Totally agree. I find even rewatching it for the I don't know how manyth time, you get drawn in. You get drawn in at least by some point in each of those stories. Starting with Darwin Jostin as Napoleon Wilson, there's somebody there that has another charisma. He's on the screen. Huh? Yeah. He made this, a few other films. He was in The Fog, and then passed away prematurely, obviously. And that's why I think he would have gone on to be, at the very least, he would have been known as a really good character actor.
Yeah.
But the thing is I think he gives a fair amount, enough time with each of the four storylines coming together that what's going on. You can, and eventually you start seeing the tie in together. But to me, he cuts the scene when it's through. You're not like, okay, God, can we hurry and get to somebody else? It's just in time. And it's funny listening to him just kind of ragging. I was like, man, I should have cut this. I should have cut this. The pacing's off. Blah, blah. I'm like, no, don't touch a thing in this film. I know you're John Carpenter and I'm nobody, but I think it's perfect the way it is.
Butch, were you around when we talked about The Void? I think you talked about The Void with us.
Yeah.
Well, now I see what those guys were ripping off. Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. And I suspect they would admit it. I think they would probably be pretty open with it, because you don't steal from something this good that boldly without just saying, yeah, this is partially an unofficial remake of Assault on Precinct 13.
I think it's. I asked you one time. I said, "What's the difference between an homage and ripping something off?" And to paraphrase your answer, intent. And The Void, to me, is an homage. I could see it. You can see it. Anybody watches these films together, one right after the other, will see it. And
Well, it's
I
got
don't
so
feel
many
like they're.
Carpenter things in it.
Oh yeah, it's like they take this, they take Prince of Darkness, maybe a little bit of the Fog, and throw in some Cthulhu, and boom.
Speaking of Carpenter homages, do you know about this weird Pizzagate movie?
No.
There is some kind of Pizzagate-oriented sort of horror satire that I saw on Tubi or Netflix or something. But you need to look it up because it is a John Carpenter homage down to the exact camera work, down to that font.
Oh wow.
Which I also use on the cover of Daybook Unbound.
Yes, you do.
That's where some of the names are in the Carpenter font. But yeah, down to that font. It's a very interesting movie.
In case y'all keep wondering why I keep leaning over, my dog keeps coming up wanting to be petted, so I'm reaching down and petting her. I'm not suddenly experiencing an earthquake.
Okay.
Wait, hey, Noel, when did you first see it? Let's throw you back into the conversation.
I first saw this mid-90s, which was very late. And it was the one thing I noticed about this movie was it was very hard to find on television. But thank God for fucking Blockbuster Video. Seriously. Because they had it.
You don't get that very often.
Right, you don't. But they actually did have this available to rent. And that was something I was really appreciative of. And that's what sort of makes you miss videotape stores, because when I was growing up, and I know this is a movie me and Butch had talked about too, that annoyed him and Mrs. Rosenbalm, Shane.
Shane?
Yeah, it's a Western.
Yeah, I know it's a Western. What was the annoying?
The repetitiveness of the name Shane. She's like, God, it's in every sentence.
I like that movie, but yeah, okay. Just wanted to touch base on which annoying thing with that movie you wanted to talk about.
And it's
Secret commies is what it is.
That's something too. Like when I was growing up, it felt like television was very censored on what they showed.
Well, it was.
They weren't showing Shane. They weren't showing Assault on Precinct 13. They wouldn't show A Clockwork Orange. They wouldn't show.
Well, no, wait. Hold on. Hold the phone. How on earth? There may have been a studio issue with Shane, or something involving Gary Cooper. But to say, yeah, these hot movies that we couldn't possibly be shown, Clockwork Orange, yeah, I know, all the sex and violence, and Shane, Shane? What was the FCC complaining about with Shane?
It's funny.
Were they not doing the Fountainhead also? Was it like a Gary Cooper thing?
It's funny you say that. When I got to watch Shane finally, I asked my grandfather, why is it not shown on TV? And he said, you'll see. He didn't want to say. He said, you'll see why. And in a weird way, Shane is sort of like a superhero Western. He's built almost like a superhero. And he's built like the fastest gun in the West, and he is. But he's built like a superhero in every way. And I could see why some people might look at that and go, this is sort of a forbidden take here on a Western. Now, it's not to me, and it's not to my grandfather, but some networks who have a stick up their ass might not want to show that for whatever reason. And
I've never heard. I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, I don't think
I think of subversive cinema, Shane is not the first. I mean, it had some political stuff back when it was made,
right.
But that was all of that commie crap. I mean, we're kind of beyond that. I mean, God, I was watching Little Big Man, and that was way more subversive.
Yeah. And this movie that we're talking now, it's on Precinct 13. It wasn't really shown on television, so I got to rent it. My mom allowed me to rent it, and I got to watch it. And it was such an awesome movie. And when I first saw Napoleon Wilson, I looked at that character and I said, right here is where John Carpenter got the idea for Snake Plissken. Right here.
Oh, yeah.
You can see it from a mile away. And it's such a great job by this actor who, the way he talks, the way he presents himself is very Pliskin-esque in a lot of ways.
Pliskinian is the, what's in the OED?
Just call him Snake.
Yeah.
The obvious reason why this film is not shown very much. About 30 to 45 minutes in, we see the death of a young child.
I wanted Vanilla Twist. Wow, what a gutsy moment.
And interestingly enough, this is the one bit of Real Housewives of whatever trivia I know. That actress, I believe her name's not Kim Darby, Kim Richards. She's on, I believe it's the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or Los Angeles.
She was on a sitcom or something also. I think she's on like Hello Larry or something.
And she was in the Witch Mountain movies,
yeah.
She was pretty, in demand actress in the 70s and 80s. And I honestly don't know why she wasn't more. I mean, she was attractive. She could do the job. But yeah, that's why this film. And the thing is, I guess you could cut it in a way that you don't see. I mean, like you do the Vanilla Twist and then you show him shooting. You delete the scene with her being shot and the blood coming up. Cut straight to where the father's putting the coat over her. But you have to cut it in such a way. Even then, that's John Carpenter says in the commentary, I don't think we could do this scene today. And I don't know exactly when that commentary was filmed, but and I think so. It's one of those things. Number one, first of all, she really wasn't shot. Number two, though, I think it's one of those things. It's kind of like if you were doing. This is a bad pick. A Batman film and there hadn't been any Batman film ever made before. You have to show Tom and Martha's death. Now we don't need to see that anymore because we've seen that in so many films. But you have to. This is the motivation that starts the film to really roll. You have to leave that scene. You can't just cut it out to where he's suddenly chasing them with the father's chasing them with the gun. It's like, where's the daughter? Where's the ice cream man? What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a key plot in the movie. That's the thing. I mean, it really is. And I love the chase sequence that goes on, not just between him chasing the people who shot his daughter, but then the people who want revenge for what he did. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ!
It goes around and around. A cycle of vengeance.
It really is. And no Charles Bronson in sight. And I really am just but I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed how they shot the police station in this movie. It's abandoned. I love their little switchboard scenery. The inside of the station looks abandoned. It looks run down. It looks they're packing up. They're moving on out, which is really cool. I'm with you both. I don't think there's anything that John needs to fix about this movie at all.
Oh,
it's
a marvelous film.
From the way he shoots it to the way the story is told, it's really, really well done. There's nothing wrong with it. And the ending, my God, what an ending. He's trying, the cop's trying to shoot the canister with a sniper rifle. It's like, Jesus. Oh my God.
Jesus never did that in any of the Gospels.
No, that's so true. But it's such
Can't argue with a confident man.
Right? It's like, oh my God.
What if he wanted to? I'm sure he's quite a marksman. But that's not part of the book.
As Homer Simpson says, it's somewhere in the back.
It's somewhere in the back.
Do you? I mean, let's talk about the kids' death for a minute, because speaking as somebody who's, again, I'm 40, so I'm younger than you guys. I'm a father. I got 2 kids. You know, in film, I don't really mind them killing off a kid in film. I mean, it's never really bothered me.
Is it therapeutic for you, Jewel? What are you? Well, where are you going to go with this? Because we may have to send a car over.
Why do I have a feeling this video will be shown when, in years from now, when one or both of Joel's children are in therapy, and they're going, "This is when I began to wonder about my daddy."
I overheard this over my Legos. What did Daddy say?
I was trying to go to sleep. Daddy said he didn't have a problem with kids.
He said he liked seeing kids shot, and then he just laughed and laughed and laughed.
Oh shit. Again, from a fictional standpoint, it never really bothered me, because I get, if it's a part of your story and it's a part of your, especially with a heel, with villains, like, you get why it needed to be done as a part of your story, especially to push a baby
process,
and even to push a baby face over, and the father going after them to get revenge. It makes sense. For example, my favorite Western, Once Upon a Time in the West, the little boy is shot, but the whole family is massacred too. So it's like, you really get why there's times that it's part of the storytelling that is needed for that story to continue, because you're telling that certain story. This is all about, in a weird way, vengeance and revenge, but it's also about survival as well.
And it's about, in some cases, totally incompetent vengeance and revenge, because you have this guy who takes the law into his own hands, and then after he accomplishes what he set out to do, right? It's like, oh, what do I do now? You know, and it's like, but that's such a human moment,
right?
You know, because if you imagine that fantasy, and then, you know, you're like the dog that catches the car, except the car is, you've murdered a man. But other than that, the analogy is exactly the same.
And you know, it's a very visceral moment. You know, that's one of the quickest ways, you know, to show who your heel is. You know, you kill a kid, smack a kid, shoot a dog.
Yeah.
Right away. And then the father taking off after. Everybody's going to understand it. That's not, you know, you don't need some big speech about, well, this is my daughter and I love her and blah, 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 blah. This is my kind of my version of that. One night we were in bed and the granddaughter was here. And I was just about to sleep. And I swear I heard her holler at me. I jump up. I pull my CPAP off. I grab my spike club. And I'm going down the steps. It doesn't matter who's down there, you know, not thinking, hey, you need to call 911. Need to wake your wife up. No, I'm going down there and I'm taking care of business. And it's like, Jill's like, what are you doing? I'm like, you didn't hear her? She's like, hear who? And I'm like, you know, I go down, I come and check. She is fast asleep. And it's like, what the hell? So that was
that's called a hypnopopic episode. And it is common with sleep apnea.
Really?
Yeah, where it's basically it's where night terrors and things like that come from. That you are largely awake, but some part of your brain is still engaged in dreaming, and so the dream seems unbelievably accurate. And I would say that your mask got a little askew, or there was some leakage or something that you weren't even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And it led to an apnea. I'm up to 72 an hour, by the way. Yeah. Throwing that out there. I had one the other night where I fell asleep in my chair by the door, and it sounded like somebody was trying to get in the door. And I mean, it was the realest thing possible, but there's a security light out there and it wasn't on and so on. So I knew, it was just up here. But that's what happened.
Interesting.
Yeah, Jewel. Yeah. You're not cool if you don't wear a CPAP.
You're not like the cool kids, man.
No, I am definitely not. I'm definitely not. I'll probably never be as cool as Butch and Patrick. And I've learned.
We just want you to live through the night.
So do I. But
However, Julie, on the other hand,
yeah. No, no. If my wife wanted to kill me, she'd have did it by now.
yeah, you'd already be killed.
Yeah, I know her.
We'd never suspect.
Yeah. You would never. If one day you wake up and you search my channel and it is just miraculously gone, assume I am too. Okay.
Miraculously gone.
Yeah, miraculously.
Not mysteriously, but miraculously.
Yeah,
It's not like it's a relief.
No,
Joel, I don't think you want to be characterizing it like that.
If you wake up one day and mysteriously my channel is gone,
okay,
assume the worst. Okay. That's all I'll say.
Well, officer, first he was saying how he didn't mind kids dying and laughing at it.
God. Oh God, here we go.
But Butch and Patrick already have their alibis planned. It's okay.
We're 2 states away.
I'm
denial.
Listen, I've been to Tennessee before. Okay, it doesn't take that long.
You say that like a threat. I know where you live, McCray. I've been to Tennessee before.
Pennsylvania and Tennessee, it's not that far of a drive. I've been to Tennessee.
Okay, he's talking about child murder, and now he's talking about how it's not that far of a drive to where I live. What?
Hold on, let me make sure my alarm is on real quick.
What is that sound? Oh my God. With this movie, guys, what's some of your favorite scenes in this movie? Because there's so many. Butch?
Every time Napoleon Wilson is on the screen, he just dominates. I mean, I like Austin Stoker as Bishop, and I mean I like everybody in this film. You got what's his name, Tony.
Tony Vincenzo of the.
I'm Tony.
United Service.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had it and I clicked off. Tony Burton. Some of you may not know who he is. He's the African-American prisoner. He went on to play in at least, I believe, the first 4 Rocky films. He was one of Apollo Creed's cornermen. He's got a shaved head, and I swear I think all African-American men look even better with shaven heads, and they're silly 1 tater, 2 tater, 3 tater, 4. But I'm kidding. Seriously, anytime Napoleon Wilson is on it, I'll pick one. Making me pick one.
Oh Jesus! I just looked up. I'm hearing my group. I'm looking up, and Butch, you got a gun to your head. What is going on? Okay.
Joel is definitely not right here. This is not pre-recorded.
Fact.
At the very end.
I have no spoon. Continue.
After the police show up and they've killed a large portion of the street gang, Street Thunder, and the fog clears and we see our 3 surviving heroes.
Which Joel's getting me a spoon.
He's going to throw it to the screen.
He's getting me a spoon. Anyway, go on.
And the one of the cops comes up and starts to handcuff Napoleon, and Bishop's like, "No," and the cop kind of ignores him and goes to between you, and he's like, "Leave away." And he knows that Napoleon has to go onto his to prison. But he looks at him and just, they had gone through so much, and there was suddenly this brotherhood between these two, and he just looks at him and goes, "I would be honored if you would walk outside with me." And Napoleon looks like, "I know you would." Which is very Napoleon. And he's, he looks at him and says, "Wilson, you got some pretty good moves." And he's like, "I have moments." And that, there is very much a callback to Rio Bravo, El Dorado, those type of movies, those types of friendships between the two leads. And we don't have to have long speeches and sitting on the ground telling sad stories about the death of kings and the history between these two. But you can tell that there is a bond between them that will never be broken. They'll always have this bond, and it'll always be there. They grok each other. Since I'm reading huh?
We'll always have Anderson.
That we will. And it just, I love that scene because you're still seeing, as I've told Joel, and of course, Patrick, you know this, a lot of our mutual friends are always confused, or at least used to be confused about Patrick and my friendship since we're so different. But we get each other on an instinctual level. I mean, there's times where we can just kind of, somebody be talking about something, we'll look at each other, and we don't know what's going on. It's just, and I feel this, I feel like his and my friendship is the same way as Napoleon and Bishop by the end of this film.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
It is.
Patrick, what's some of your favorite scenes?
Whatever Butch said. Well, Vanilla Twist.
Yeah.
Is really very strong. I too have trouble sitting in chairs. So there's that. I like a lot of my stuff is towards the beginning of the movie, because after that it's very good action sequences, but it's action sequences. I like how Laurie Zimmer just is immediately smitten with Napoleon, and I feel so sorry for Austin Stoker's character, because you can tell he's trying to maybe I'll be with him in a minute over his coffee and the darts and so on. And it's like, oh well, there goes that one. So the stuff I like, I'm learning is more than I knew, really offbeat stuff in the movie, because some of it, like cool action stuff and snappy dialogue, and so I take that for granted. That this John Carpenter movie, early John, I'm going to see those things.
Yeah.
There's also a camera involved in the movie. And we couldn't have the movie without it, but I appreciate that. It's the offbeat stuff along with that that I really, really appreciate. I just effervesced. Pardon me.
I tell you something else that, and I love doing this with films that were filmed when I was alive and younger. This is what I love to do. As Bishop is driving in and he's talking on the the radio, and you look on the side, and as he's passing, like you see a Texaco station, you see other things, and it's almost a glimpse back into the mid-'70s of Los Angeles, which I've never been to Los Angeles, but there's enough things in the background. That's one of my favorite things about looking at older films, is you can look back and it's a very accurate reflector. Like sometimes I watch the old Dragnet and like, oh, here's gas for 25 cents or something like that. And it's just, a nice reminder. I enjoy doing that, probably a little too much.
It's a free country. I enjoy that sort of nostalgia also. Glow in its set decoration and its props department. I swear to God, at one point somebody has an apple slice that they're drinking.
Oh, wow.
There are some very deep cuts in that, but then when you get to see source material, it's even better. Like the Major Matt Mason toys in David Hennessy's bedroom, David Collins's bedroom.
Yeah. I really love the beginning as well in this. I love how they build Stoker's character going to the precinct. He's supposed to give me a twist. The girl getting shot is just really, really edgy, but shot really, really well. The police station scenes are amazing. I mean, I love the fact that you get. I know where you were going with it. I love the fact that you get this solid set of action. And by the way, one of the most shocking things in this movie, Charles Cypress's character getting killed off was shocking to me. I mean, just like, holy shit, no one is safe in this.
Speaking of not safe, I have had incredibly painful hiccups all day. I have to go take care of these. And I have to strike ludicrous poses. I may be back. It depends on how long it takes me.
Okay.
If I'm not back in time, anon, but I hope to be.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed the action sequences. The fact that our villains use silencers was really smart by Carpenter. It's why no one hears them. So I know when hears their gun shooting. Our heroes aren't using silencers. They don't get anything that fancy. But I love how they mentioned the electricity company will send somebody to fix the pole. So they will. But
Eventually.
Eventually they'll get around to it. That's basically my line up here in the mountains. Yeah, eventually they'll get around to fixing it. They actually do, though. But I love the night scenes too in front of the police station. I think they're shot so well, and for as well as they're lit, it still looks so very, very dark. When Carpenter shows you somebody walking like running across the night, it feels just as creepy as he's shooting Michael Myers in John Carpenter's Halloween. He pulls off. Even though this is an action movie, he gives you some small percentage of horror of terror.
It's very much Rio Bravo or El Dorado meets Night of the Living Dead. The street gang. Once you get past the very first scene where they decide to do what they call the Cholo, which is a blood oath, their personalities and characters are truthfully very immaterial.
Yep.
It might as well be zombies. It might as well be John Wayne shooting zombies out of the sheriff's office.
I'll say this: the way John does this here with Assault on Precinct 13, I feel this here is done so much better than the way they do the final scene in Pacino's Scarface. I feel this here holds up so much better because it's so well done. And you have a character, not just one character, but many characters. Stoker, you have Napoleon Wilson, the woman. They're very interesting characters. And I love the fact that Wilson, when he gets up, toss me a gun, they're coming down the hallway. It's like, oh shit, they're in the building. Things about
you see Bishop like, I'm not going to throw this murderer a gun. And he's like, oh shit, I have to if I want to live, and he throws it to him.
That's right. It's like things have gone from bad to really bad really fast in this movie, but you appreciate the fast-paced storytelling you're getting from Carpenter. From start to finish, this movie never slows down at all. It just constantly goes, and it keeps picking up. Even when they're plotting their last stand, it's like it does not like take them that long to plot the last stand that they're going to try to attempt. Then they come raw rushing in, and it's like, holy shit, this has been an intense movie. And it's really fun to see that it looked like everybody was just having a good time in this movie. I mean, it just looked like the actors were having so much fun filming it. I mean, they looked like they enjoyed the characters they played. And when people ask me to rank my John Carpenter movies, I always put this in my top 3. How I put it, I actually put it number 2. And people are like, wait, you put it above this? I'm like, yeah, because it's really, really entertaining still today. You can go back and watch this movie and just be purely entertained. It's not slow. It's not, dulled down. There are movies that are 3 hours that you just want, by the end of the day, you want to strangle yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this movie where you don't want to do that at all, because it's been such a fast ride. And it's not a action movie that's pointless. It has a very simplistic plot. Sorry,
it was well, it really is, the old proverbial, they take a pea or whatever at the top of a snowy hill and it, roll down in. And yeah, I've heard some people talk about the first part of the film is kind of slow. It can be, but for me, it helps draw me in and realize, watching Ethan Bishop walk down to his car, roll down his window, get in the car. He's whistling, he turns on. This is just another day to him. Nobody knows what's coming. The father and the daughter are going to the typical white man wants to pull I think it's his mother, her grandmother, out of this horrible slum. And you have the gang and what they're going to do. And Napoleon Wilson's being taken to wherever they're taking him, the other prison. And it's one of those things, I personally, while I can see where they might say it's a little slow at the beginning, if you're the kind of person that bothers, set the remote far enough away that you'll leave it alone. Give this movie about, I don't know, 5 to 15 minutes. And if you aren't enthralled, I'm sorry, but it is so good. Carpenter hits so many moments in this film just perfect. Like you said, it doesn't let up, but it's not like one of these, oh my God. Did you ever see the most recent Mad Max movie? I think it's called Fury Road or something like that.
Yeah.
There was a point about halfway through the film. I just paused it and I looked at my wife. I'm like, it needs a break. This movie does not need a break.
No.
It it is a bit of a slow burn, probably like most John Carpenter films are, but it's done so well with people doing, interesting people doing interesting things and interesting things going on. Like you said, the prison is lit well. The night shots are well. The only minute flaw I find is when the father is chasing the gang to kill Frank Doubleday, who killed his daughter. He's driving, and it looks like it's like 3:00 in the afternoon, and then the next scene he catches them, and it's pitch black. It's like, wait, what? But honestly, unless you're watching this film over and over, you don't even really notice it.
That's that California time jump no one told you about.
Makes me think, when the time changes,
yeah,
and you're like, what? It's what time? Or once you get past August and get into September, and it's like, wait a minute, the sun's not up. What?
Yeah, when the clocks change and it's dark at 5:00, it's like, Jesus Christ, where did the darkness come from?
Your heart.
Right. But I think the best part about the beginning, like for me, the best way to view this movie and not try to skip through, my advice is similar to yours, but in this way. When I watched this movie for the first time, where I was intrigued I was intrigued by where the characters were going and what each was doing, because they're separate from each other. You have a cop who's going to a job. You have a father and a daughter who's going not where the cop's going, they're going somewhere else. It's like, okay, now how are these characters going to interact with each other? That's sort of your first real question in this movie. It's like, or what are they at least going to have to do with each other? Because they're in this movie for a reason. That's your first real fun question of Assault on Precinct 13. And then you see the little girl says she's hungry, and then he's on a payphone, R.I.P. He gives her some. She goes, "Dad, there's the ice cream man." That was basically my line to my mother every time I heard the ice cream man too. And he gives her some money. She goes, I'd like a twist. This guy's so worried. This guy's more worried about getting mugged than any death wish victim ever was. Okay, ever.
Well, the gang had already gone past him once,
Right?
And he knew something was up.
Yeah.
So why he's sitting there, apparently shoving his thumb up his ass repeatedly. I don't know. It's like, dude, if you're that, I'm with you. If you're that paranoid, turn the vehicle on, turn the music off, get the vehicle going, and get the heck out of there.
And he even says to her, he goes, "Oh, we're closed. I'm shut down. Oh, your light's still, your music's still on.
Your music's still playing."
Right. It's like, come on. It's like, dude, are you that and you are, I get you're that entrenched into like the gang passing you by. It's like, why the hell did you stop, you genius? But she does stop. He gets her a vanilla, and she's like walking. If I'd have been this son of a bitch, didn't give me a twist, but no, she doesn't say that. She's like, he didn't give it. Hey, I asked for a twist. She walks back. He gets pulled out. She's like, I asked for a twist, and then you see the gun. You go, this is again. John Carpenter is on the commentary gets interviewed for Once Upon a Time in the West, and I do think he sort of took a bit from that movie where the kid gets shot. The only difference is John doesn't cut away.
Oh,
John just.
But also, what? Once Upon a Time in the West was what, about 1960, 65,
68, 69.
Okay, so this movie, I think this was 75. So I mean, let's say roughly a decade.
Yeah.
However, it was an important decade because you went from Rio Bravo and El Dorado to the Wild Bunch, and you went from and I love Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney. You went from that, and even Sir Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing to Night of the Living Dead. You had that. I hate when people use this term. You had that quantum leap where everything had changed, and you could show these things. And a lot of these, I like to call them the Young Turks. John Carpenter, George Romero. Who was it that did Texas Chainsaw Massacre? His name's escaping me at the moment.
Hooper.
Tobe Hooper. These guys, they've changed the rules, and you can show people being eaten by zombies. You can show a little girl being shot. You can show people being carved up for barbecue. Thankfully, they don't go into too much detail on TCM, but and I don't mean Turner Classic Movies, folks. So, this at that time, I still vaguely remember the 70s. For me, it was a very, what my memories are just kind of boring. And there was like this, I believe the term is malaise. I mean, just kind of think about like a really hot summer and nobody wants to do nothing. That's how I remember the 70s. And so I feel like, especially after Nixon and the various things that were going on in our country, the race riots, that's what, when you get to in the civil rights movements and you get to, silly things like disco and was it Studio 51? because people wanted, you either had to slap them across the head, George Romero, John Carpenter, Tobe Hooper, or you had to just hit with the biggest banality, so that it was just kind of like, yeah, this, kind of like Ward Cleaver on some Quaaludes, man. I'm just kind of hanging out here. Ow, that's my leg you're stabbing. So cutting that scene would have been, in my opinion, at that time, wrong. Finally started bringing all of them together, all the various characters. Okay, I'm gonna sit you down. And it's really what gets the ball rolling, and you're finally like, oh, okay, this is how they're all coming together. And we wouldn't have this wonderful film without it. So, like I said earlier about how I personally would, if I was like cutting this for I don't think you showed it on regular TV. You'd be somewhere like AMC or something, cable, to even just to do that little bit, because you have to leave at least the action and the consequences in. You don't have to necessarily show what happened, but I mean, that's the thing. Oh my God, man, you got to see this.
Here's my thing about modern day television. Okay, if you got the balls to show Negan beating the hell out of somebody with a baseball bat, all right, then you should have the balls, network television, to show this movie uncut. Don't cut a goddamn thing.
They won't. They won't.
I know they won't, but they should. Don't cut it. Instead of showing that shitty remake that you show this. Show this.
I was waiting on somebody to bring it up because I wasn't going to bring it up. As much as I love this film, I was like, okay, I've got to see the remake. I know it's trendy and chic and whatnot to crap all over remakes. There are good remakes, The Thing being one of them. It's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And had Lawrence Fishburne, who was an actor I liked a lot, and I was like, all right. And you had Ernest Borgnine and some other actors. And I was just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
It's right there with the remake of The Fog. There was another remake right in there. It seemed like a John Carpenter, where it's just like, it's people that saw the film but didn't see the same film I saw, or didn't take the same thing away. And I don't know if you've seen the remake of The Fog, but it's just like, what is the point of this? If you're not, it's kind of like a remake of a song. If, I don't know, Van Halen covers Roy Orbison for a not bad example, doing Pretty Woman, I want it to sound like Van Halen doing their version of it. I don't want to hear Roy Orbison Jr., pun intended, doing Roy Orbison. I don't want to hear just the same thing. I can hear that already. I want you to do your spin on it. But these films were just like, what was the point of this? You're not, just seemed very pointless and not very entertaining.
And I think too, I never saw the Fog remake.
Don't.
Here's why. Because I saw this remake first. And when they said they were remaking the Fog, I said, no. Once you fucked up one John Carpenter film, you've lost me. Okay? That's how I treated that. No, not necessarily the same people were doing it, but still. I have a very short leash when it comes to films being remade. Like I'll watch one, and then if you do that one good enough, I'll come back to the next one. But if you fuck up that one, we've got a problem. And here's where they went wrong, and I'm not faulting the actors who got cast. To Hollywood, Lawrence Fishburne. The guy who was in the Rambo movies, what's the guy who played the sheriff in the Rambo movies? I think.
Charles Napier.
Well, he was the guy who played the sheriff in the Rambo movie, the first Rambo movie.
Charles Napier was in Rambo, not First Blood. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I almost said Charles Severs, but yeah.
Yeah, he was in this. You had Ethan Hawke, I think, or not Ethan Hawke, but you had so many who's who in this movie. It's like, name me honestly. Austin Stoker is somebody I never heard of prior to watching this on Precinct 13. The only two actors I knew in there were both from Halloween. Were Nancy Loomis and Charles Cypress. But it's not like they're big names. It's not like they're so Hollywood it's disgusting when you see their names in there. You know what I mean? And again, I love Lawrence. I'm with you. I love Lawrence Fishburne, great actor. But there's a time where you don't
Brian Denny.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Brian Denny. You don't necessarily need great big names. You need.
Listen to this: Ethan Hawke, Lawrence Fishburne, John Leguizamo, Maria Bello, Ja Rule, Drea D'Amato, Brian Denny, and Gabriel Byrne.
Yeah,
that sounds like an amazing cast to me.
It is. That's the thing.
But
it's very Hollywood-esque cast, and that's a part of the problem with it. It's so Hollywood. You have so many great actors. You don't need a bunch of great actors. You need actors who with big names. You need really good actors with unknown names, and build your movie around why they're here. Why is the way John did this? Why is each character here at this precinct? Now, their take on this was Napoleon Wilson is so famous. And okay, I get that. I appreciate it to some degree, but there was a lore to the original Napoleon Wilson. There really, even post movie, it's like, who the fuck was Napoleon Wilson? You never know. You never find out. And that's the beauty about going back to the original, really. When you go back to the original, you're like, man, this son of a bitch kicked ass. This guy right here is who you want in your foxhole, no matter what. And you appreciate the character for it twice as more now because they messed up the remake so much.
Well, we talked about, we've not done the thing, but I know we've talked about it at the end. Who is the thing and who isn't? I mean, that is one of the great horror/sci-fi fan questions of the last 40 years.
Yeah.
And what did Napoleon Wilson do? Well, he killed some people. Why? We don't know.
Yep.
It's not important. What's important is he's in jail and he's being taken to another jail and he's rather infamous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to know it was 3 guys trying to rape a 13-year-old or something, which, great. Go right ahead. Stopped them, saved the young lady. Great. He could just be a bastard that didn't like the old man that's next door that snored too loud. Yep. But that's there is something to be said for not telling everything. And going a little bit back to your point about the remakes, like Platinum Dunes, I will take every opportunity I can to take a big old defecation on those remakes because they're horrible. I'm sorry, Doug, if you're watching this. But their version of Friday the 13th was just, I remember reading an interview. Marcus Nispel was the director. And he's like, well, Jason finding his mask is very important. We don't want him to just come across and find it. It needs to mean something. Guess what happens in the Friday the 13th, the remake? He just finds the mask.
Yeah.
Like, did you pay attention to the film you made? And then, they remade, I think I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre first, which was crap, literally. Then the Friday the 13th, which I got talked into going and seeing, and I've still not watched their remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, though I did like Jackie Earle Haley. I thought he was a really good choice to play Freddy Krueger. But I've heard so much. Everybody that I know, every person I know of that I respect, it's like, don't watch it. So, there is a pureness to this film that big budget. One of the great things, and I wish if I ever got to meet John Carpenter, or if amazingly he saw this, it'd be like, your low budgetedness, I think, helped this film. Because you have to do more with dialogue, you have to do more with story, you have to do more with the plot, because you don't have some big spectacle, the big explosion or the big monster. You don't have a shark attacking a town, but it brings out, and not knowing any of these people helps. I mean, that's one of the things I love about the first three George Romero Dead films, and Night, Dawn, and Day. You don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
That it makes it, and it's a word I hate, it makes it more realistic. Maybe not realistic, but it draws you in more, because it's like, oh, this could be me. This could be somebody I know. Same thing here. This could be, God forbid, me and my granddaughter going to go get somewhere. It could be you could get a new job, and you have to go do something that seem to be very mundane, and you get pulled into a lot more than you ever thought you would in that case. So I think that kind of stuff helps, rather than going, oh, hey, look, it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom Cruise is going to be Tom Cruise.
There should be some realism to your movie.
Or at least a air of believability.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, look at all these big names. And that's not knocking anybody in the remake of Assault on Precinct 13. Great actors doing it, there just wasn't much there, I think. Though I did like the fact they moved it to Christmas. That was one thing I thought was interesting.
See, that's the thing I would have, if I had to if they said, okay, put one major actor in the movie, okay? I'm like, okay, I would have left Lawrence Fishburne there. That I could have kept that, but everybody else should have been at least unknown. Again, change some of the plot, but again,
I'm just going to respectfully disagree with you.
Okay.
Whoever my big name is, he plays the Charles Cyphers role, and he gets killed about 45 minutes in.
There you go.
And you're like, you're drawn to these remaining people, kind of like Psycho, which we talked about, where once Janet Leigh is gone, your interest and your concern and your feelings gravitates towards Norman. So, yeah, I would make it a big deal. Here's Tom Cruise. He's a big, strong policeman, and oh shit, they just killed Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
and you're like, this can happen. Anybody could die, because we don't know who the rest of these people are.
That's the thing. Like, they need to be smarter about doing these remakes, not just do the remakes and get a bunch of big names together, because you're taking a lot away from your own movie when you do that. With the original, where the original is so good, is because John vests you into these characters. Like you said, it's a slow burn, but when you're watching, you're like, okay, like I said, they're all separate. A lot of them are separate. The cop has nothing to literally do with the guy and the girl. He's going to a precinct. They're going to get someone away from a bad neighborhood to come live with them. That has nothing to do with the cop. That has nothing to do with Napoleon Wilson. And the one guy, you're even wondering, okay, how is Napoleon Wilson going to end up in that precinct? And then some guy gets sick on the bus. It's like, oh shit. And then when the girl gets shot, it's so good. It's so goddamn good. If you haven't seen this movie, goddamn it, it's free on Tubi. Go watch this shit. It's beautiful.
Have you? Are you familiar with the term Chekhov's gun?
No. Yeah.
Patrick can explain it better than I can, I'm sure. But basically, it's something is introduced that will eventually tie back into the plot.
Yeah.
The prisoner coughing when Charles Cyphers first shows up at the first prison and he's coughing and carrying on, you don't realize it, but that's a Chekhov's gun, because it will cause them, and he's really sick and we need to stop at the next precinct. The little girl being hungry, Napoleon, Ethan Bishop going to the precinct. Well, he even says, well, there's nothing for me to do other than stare at crates.
Yeah.
So I always joke, my superpower is I'll say, oh, this will never happen, and it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I say, oh, that always happens, and it doesn't, unless of course here's where my superpower sucks. I try to do it on purpose, like, oh, I'll never win the lottery. Yeah, that doesn't work. But this, you called it a slow burn, and I know I've said basically I don't know how much. It's not really a slow burn in my opinion. It does take its time tying all the stories together, but it jumps around enough to keep you interested, or at least it should keep you interested. And it's kind of interesting. The main people, the little girl, the dad, and Frank Doubleday, who plays the gang member that kills the little girl, the three people that do the most to forward the plot we know the least about. I don't even think we know the father or the daughter's name. Well, we hear the daughter's name. It's escaping me at the moment. Frank Doubleday, the gang member, doesn't have a name. Nobody in the gang has a name. That's unimportant. But they're the three that move the plot forward and bring all these elements together. And, if you're not interested by the time the father comes into the precinct, I don't know what to tell you. It's just... Well, they do have one big name. They call him Cheney. He's the tall policeman at the precinct that gets killed. That is he played Scar in Rio Bravo, or not Rio Bravo, The Searchers. Henry Brandon. I knew I'd get his name eventually. And which is, I always like it. I tell my dad, who's a big Western fan, I said, and once the Westerns died in the 70s and 80s, a lot of Western stars migrated to horror.
Yeah.
And, this is another case of it. I mean, this film, for any and all perceived and true faults, this is a Western. This is, Napoleon Wilson is John Wayne.
Yeah.
Ethan Bishop is the partner, be it Dude or Robert Mitchum.
Yeah.
Laurie is the very, and Carpenter even says this in the commentary, Laurie is the very Howard Hawksian female. She gives just as good as she gets.
Yeah.
She may not look like it, but man, that woman's made of steel. That's the woman you don't want to mess with.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a few, maybe not long, but just looks between Napoleon and Laurie. Julie, I think her name is. But anyway, they look, and you can see. As someone once said, you'll meet someone, and you can just somehow this person either will or could have had a major effect on your life. And if Napoleon had met her, he may not have killed those people. And would they have been happy forever? Who knows? In my mind, let me ask your opinion. Let me ask your opinion on this. In my mind, Napoleon went on to the prison. Ethan Bishop went to the wall for him, and he got a reduced sentence. And Laurie Zimmer was waiting on him when he got out in 5 years. To me, that's how that's the epilogue to this film. and Ethan Bishop and Napoleon would get together, maybe once a month and, go out and have a drink or hang around the house and shoot the shit. And, they became friends. They were friends for life.
I think there's two potential epilogues to this movie. One's the one you just said, which is probably the correct one. But then there's the second one. He went to bat for him. They didn't give him a reduced sentence. And Laurie's character broke him the hell out of prison. See that?
Or there's the third. Just like you talked about, went to the bat for him. Nobody listened, because there's some interesting dialogue when he's on at the very beginning when Ethan is talking to his supervisor, and he says, do you want to be a hero your first night out? And Bishop goes, yes, sir. And he's like, there are no more heroes, Lieutenant, just men who follow orders. And I think it's in the commentary, John Carpenter mentions in the mid-late 70s, that's what we were hearing. John Wayne had died. There weren't any more heroes, which, is a lot of malarkey. It's just, it wasn't the traditional heroes that they had.
Yeah.
But anyway, he goes to bat for him, doesn't do no good, and Napoleon gets executed. Yeah. And Laurie spends the next 30, 40, 50 years of her life. No man will ever match up to Napoleon, because, I mean, he's the king of cool. I mean, even at the very end, right before the Bishop shoots the tank, he's still pretty cool. I mean, his line, anybody got a smoke?
Yeah.
There is one line, and I can't remember if I said it off camera or on camera. It's right at the very end, because he has 3 shots to hit the tank with the sniper rifle, and Bishop misses one, or the first one. Of course, the last one hits. But it's done so well, it doesn't seem like quite so fake. But he's holding, Napoleon's holding up that barrier, and he's like, "Can't argue with a confident man." Translation: will you hurry the hell up and shoot that damn thing? But even then, he's still, like you said, he's very much a prototypical Snake Plissken.
Yeah.
He's a smart ass. He's a badass, and it takes a lot to impress him and to intimidate him. And it's like, oh, okay, we're being overrun by a nameless street gang. Throw me a gun and I'll kill some of them.
Yep. That's
okay. Like you said, he's the guy you want in your foxhole. He's the guy you want him at your back in a big fight.
Yeah, I mean, he is. He's one of those characters that is just purely fascinating, and he's entertaining as hell. I mean, from start to finish, yep. You can't take your eyes off of him, and it's really, really that intense, and that type of character. They don't really come along like that anymore. It's like Carpenter really. What happened in what happened in the Westerns, you had the characters like John Wayne played, that Jimmy Stewart played, that Fonda played. I dare say that, again, I've talked about how Carpenter is sort of a modern day Western director in every way he is, because he made Western characters more modern day for his movies. Where, like a Napoleon Wilson, like the character James Woods played in John Carpenter's Vampires, like a Snake Plissken, Roddy Piper's character in They Live. Those characters could easily be in a Western. All of them. They give that sort of lone wolf Western feel, cowboy-esque feel, but they're so goddamn cool at doing it as well.
I would argue that if John Wayne's characters from the West, from Rio Bravo, El Dorado, and Rio Lobo, were brought into a modern, contemporary setting, they'd probably be a murderer. They would be. It was like, why'd you kill him? Needed killing.
Yep.
And it's at that time of cinema that personality was rewarded, whereas in a more contemporary setting, it would be like, you can't do that. You can't do that.
No. It's sort of like when we talk about the real life events of Tombstone, and there's that trial of, okay, what happened? Why did you shoot them? Yada yada yada. Well, now you look at everything's about. Well, it's not. Well, they just. Why'd you do it? It's you can't just say, "Oh, they deserved it." And I think that's something that we've come now where it's like society is so judgmental to the point of it's a guy. People can get away literally with. It feels like people can get away with rape, theft, and murder, but if you defend yourself, God forbid, like like the justice system will rip you apart. And it's just like, that's insane. But you beat a character like a Napoleon Wilson, and you get him, you appreciate his character because you get what he stands for, and he stands for his own beliefs himself. He believes in himself, and it's just an amazing character. What do you give this movie 1 out of 10?
Before I do that, I want to hit that last point you made. I would argue Napoleon Wilson and his descendant Snake Plissken are just as American as any character John Wayne ever played.
Yeah,
it's the individual standing against the tide, living on his own code. We've talked about this in Rio Bravo. We've talked about this in El Dorado. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, at least character-wise, they're right there with him. I give this film an 11 out of 10. I love this film. If it's not in my top 10 all-time favorite films, ask me again tomorrow and it probably will be. And then it may be again. You said you put this in your top 3 Carpenter films. It's right. This and Escape from New York fight for dominance. So if you see Escape from New York, you can also write or Assault on Precinct 13 on my list of favorite films. And I've heard one of my favorite things about the internet was finding weird things that people connect films through. And somebody, and it was probably over on movieandtvtropes.com, said that they thought this was a prequel, or could be viewed rather as a prequel to Escape from New York, the way the gang takes over with the guns. And that's why society falls in, 92 in Escape from New York.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I can see this. And maybe Napoleon is Snake's father.
Yeah.
Or mentor.
Could be. You never know. It's a possibility.
Yeah, highest ratings, folks. Highest ratings. Like Joel said, if you've not seen this film, I do recommend this version, the Blu-ray from Shout or Scream. I forget which of their imprints it is. See it on a big TV. Watch it at night. Turn all the lights off so you can just bask in the glow of that glorious the night photography like Joel was mentioning. I cannot tell you how much I recommend this film, how much I love this film. We did Vampires last week, and I was thinking, we're kind of doing westerns that aren't westerns. I'm like, we could do Escape from New York or Assault on Precinct 13. Well, I'll save Escape from New York. Let's do Assault on Precinct 13. Seriously, I love this film. When I used to work third shift, 20 years ago, I would put this in on my DVD player and turn it down. But and that music, dun 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 dun. I couldn't tell you how many times I went to sleep to that music. Just love it. I think I love everything about this film. I cannot find anything to complain about it.
It's an excellent movie. I'm with you on the score. 11 at 11. It's just, God, it's so good. It really is. If you guys want to, if you don't own this movie, it's free on Tubi, and it's damn worth the watch. Beautiful film from start to finish, the way it's shot.
And let me say this, and this is an honest request. If anybody watches this has never seen it or hasn't seen it in a long time, and you watch it and you don't like it for whatever reason, comment on the video.
Yeah.
I want to know why. I want to know. I don't want to, I won't tear you apart. I won't insult you, other than maybe say you're blind. I'm kidding. But I would like to know what someone else, I think the only complaint you could find is, and I don't mean to sound like, oh man, you kids get off my yard, is I think younger viewers might be like, God, this movie is so slow. I think that's the only thing, because they're used to films being made at such a faster pace. And this is not one of those films that, it invests you in the characters. It's not just, here's everything thrown right at you. But if you do watch this one and you don't like it, please go to the comments, say, hey, I didn't like it, and here's why. I would love to read it. I really would.
I'm not going to be as nice as Butch just was. If you don't like it, I'm just going to send you Patrick and Gordon's greatest hits. That's what I'm going to send you. Singing. That's what we're going to put them in a studio. We're going to record them. I'm going to send it to you. No.
As I used to be in a church choir, and I met this guy, and he got me interested in playing drums. I learned to play drums, and I remember a mutual friend of ours said, "You know what? As a singer, you make a pretty good drummer, so you could you could probably include me in there." And I admit it, I'm tone deaf, so yeah, you don't want to listen to me. I know I don't. That's why I only sing in the car by myself.
I listen to death metal. I don't repeat singing it because I couldn't. People are like, what do you listen to? I'm like, death metal. How do you listen to that? I listen to it. I don't sing it. That's how I listen to it. Because I can't sing it. I could never sing. Because I know I couldn't. I have a very, very, very interesting movie for you next week. It's not a horror movie. It's not a horror movie, though. I am going to pick a horror movie later this month. This one isn't. It is Escape from New York. So there you go.
Let me tell you, another 11 out of 10. My wife, I'd never heard this term before. And my wife has made it twice to me. Once about William Shatner, and the other time about Kurt Russell. I believe she called it a man crush. Yeah. Like Captain Kirk and Snake Plissken are two of the most manly men of all time. And just a reminder to you that in 2 weeks we'll be doing Ravenous, which I know is a little hard to track down. So that's why I've been mentioning it to you to give you time to get with it. That'll be my next one. So that'll give you time to be looking for that one.
Ravenous. It's spelled how I'm thinking, right?
Huh?
It's spelled how I'm thinking, right?
Ravenous. Okay. I believe it was directed by Antonia Bird. It is on Criterion Channel right now.
Okay, I'll track it down like the Dickens, and I will watch it. But before that, we're going to do Escape from New York.
I've already got my prop ready for you.
Yeah, I own the DVD as well, so I don't have a Snake Plissken action figure.
In case you're pull out, but still, I had to glue it. His arm broke a long time ago.
Like the one action figure I used to have that I don't have no more. I initially, as a kid, my first action figure was a Soundwave action figure, and I held on to that. And he was an Autobot at that point. Now he's a Decepticon, and I rebought the damn thing. It's just like, I was like, what's with it? I'm like, my favorite Transformer. That's my little side story. I will spoil you on what my horror selection is going to be for later this month. It has something to do, well, a little hint. It has something to do with the town of Centralia, Pennsylvania. That's my hint.
And I know what it is, but I'm not going to spoil it. Hey, you know what would be another good, if you want to keep doing the Westerns that aren't Westerns? Have you ever seen or heard of a movie called Dog Soldiers?
Yes, I've seen it. The werewolf movie. Yes.
Shh, you weren't supposed to tell that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I gotta get out of Tennessee now.
If you want to continue this, I may look for that one.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. Like both the movies we're picking are all really good. Like Dog Soldiers is really good. It has a unique story. I like the way they do it, but definitely Escape from New York for next week. I'll message Patrick now that we're wrapping up here. And for Patrick McCray, I'd like to thank him for joining us. And for my buddy Butch Rosenbalm, it is always a pleasure, sir. I will see you next week at 9:45, sir.
Take care, Joel. Always a pleasure.
Have a great weekend, buddy.
You too.
Bye.
See ya.